Scott Williamson is president of Quality Outcomes Incorporated, a company dedicated to establishing a consensus-building approach to identify broad-based O&P outcomes data, to identify and teach professional best practices. Scott just celebrated his 20th year in the nonprofit community and is active in several healthcare-related activities.
Hi, and welcome to the latest version of Alabama Legal and Ethics Education Online. I'm Scott Williamson. I'm pleased to bring Ethics Part 1 to you today. Ethics can be a tricky subject because everyone usually has his or her own code of ethics. Legality and ethical behavior are not necessarily the same thing. Just because something isn't illegal doesn't mean it's ethical. Therefore, it's essential to understand what behaviors are expected in your particular company. This is communicated through the company vision statement, the mission statement, and the owner's core values. The most important of these is a set of values and actions displayed by the owner. But also important is what behavior the owner allows to happen in the workplace. This sets the bar for behavioral expectations in spite of whatever is written in your code of conduct. There are some behaviors that most of us would identify as unethical without a great deal of debate, and we are masters at rationalizing our own behavior. But the purpose of this presentation is to encourage you to think about the behavior you exhibit. We all talk about common workplace dilemmas, how you might handle the dilemma, and what an ethical business might look like to the outside world. In the journey to become a business success, the temptation to engage in unethical practices can become very strong. Too often, companies place profit ahead of all the other considerations, engaging in dubious business practices, creating a culture devoid of business ethics. The results can devastate entire professions, as well as cause irreparable harm to both the business and the consumers. An ethical business culture can be defined by several key components, which place reliable companies above those that do anything for a buck. First thing is we want to adhere to commitments. The most important aspect of any ethical business culture is the same as it is for individuals. Keep your promises and honor your commitments. A business culture that means what it says will refrain from lying or deceiving others. Products will not be marketed in a deceitful way, and employees will not be induced to work for bonuses that never materialize. In cases where commitments cannot be met, the wronged party needs to be told exactly why and receive assurances of reparation in some manner in the future. An ethical business structure will create a viable code of conduct, stating how employees will behave at work, the standards that the product will adhere to, and the overall ethical underpinnings of the company as a whole. It should include enforceable punishments for those who break the code of conduct, and it should be adopted proactively, anticipating ethical dilemmas rather than reacting to problems once they've been revealed. The code of conduct needs to apply to everyone associated with the company. Whether you're a leader, a senior officer, or a line worker, we all need to have the code of conduct apply to us equally. That makes it easier to expect all employees to engage in the same behavior. Transparency and communication. Ethical businesses have nothing to hide. And while it may be prudent to keep marketing strategies and similar plans hidden, a culture of secrecy often leads to abuse. Good businesses communicate important information to their employees. They maintain an open-door policy toward questions about the company's direction, and they permit reports of abuses and complaints in a manner which does not punish those who speak out. An ethical business knows the difference between playing its cards close to its vest and distorting or disguising information in order to divert suspicion. It also treats its people fairly. Every business is essentially a collection of people. Employees, customers, and partners exist as more than simply assets to be exploited. An ethical business structure understands these facts and strives to provide a positive experience in a people-oriented organization. That means rewarding loyalty with improved wages or benefits, demonstrating flexibility when customers require a little give, and understanding how business strategies affect those in the company, and generally understanding how the company conduct affects the lives of those around it. Each day, roughly 120 million people walk into a workplace somewhere in the United States. Within the past year, almost half of these workers personally witnessed some form of ethical misconduct, according to a recent study conducted by Washington, D.C. based Ethics Resource Center. We're not talking about workers being privy to the CFO committing fraud. More likely, it's someone who lied to a supervisor or handed in a false expense report. The number one ethical problem or ethical situation that's been uncovered or found is the misuse of company time. Whether it's covering for someone who shows up late or altering a timesheet, misusing company time tops the list. This category includes knowing that one of your coworkers is conducting personal business on company time. By personal business, the survey knows the difference between making cold calls to advance your freelance business or calling home to check about your sick child. Many workplaces have managers, supervisors, or coworkers who use their position and power to mistreat or disrespect others. The majority of these people are bosses, over 72%. However, executives and senior managers can be the victims too. They are often afraid of an emotional confrontation. They loathe conflict and remain paralyzed. By not acting through, though, they tacitly endorse the bully. They fear lawsuits brought by the bully if they punish the employee. It's important to know that there's rarely a basis for those feared lawsuits. Workplace bullying is repeated, health-harming mistreatment of one or more persons, the targets, by one or more perpetrators. It's abusive conduct that's either threatening, humiliating, or intimidating, or it can be workplace interference, sabotage, which prevents work from getting done, or it can be verbal abuse. According to a recent study by Jack Hayes International, 1 out of every 40 employees in 2012 was caught stealing from their employer. 1 out of 40. Even more startling than that, though, is that these employees steal on average 5.5 times more than shoplifters. Average $715 per incidence for employees versus $129 for a shoplifter. Employee fraud is also on the uptick. Whether it's check tampering or not recording sales so they can skim, or manipulating expense reimbursements. Ethical alert. The FBI recently reported that employee theft is the fastest growing crime in the U.S. today. The fastest way to lose respect and trust of your employees is to lie to them. Yet employers do it all the time. 1 out of every 5 employees report that their manager or supervisor has lied to them within the last year. Do you recognize any of these behaviors? So how do we handle these issues when they come up? Employees make decisions at all levels of the company, whether at the top, on the front line, or anywhere in between. Every employee in an organization is exposed to the risk of facing an ethical dilemma at some point, and some ethical decisions can be more challenging than others. Knowing how to resolve ethical dilemmas in the workplace can increase your decision-making effectiveness while keeping you and your company on the right side of the law and public sentiment. So what do? The first place you go when you suspect an unethical behavior is to check your code of conduct or your code of ethics. Again, you make decisions, make sure that when you make those decisions, they're balanced against that code. If you think that that issue that you've discovered or the anomaly is a violation of the code of conduct, then share that with your supervisor or your mentor or your coach. Or if you're facing a decision where you're unsure of the ethical ramifications, you can bounce that decision prior to making it off of your supervisor or a mentor or coach. If you're at the top of your organization, if you're the CEO or the owner, discuss your dilemma with other executives. Don't necessarily discuss that with your staff. But you should have a network of peers and mentors that you can reach out to, or co-owners, folks that you can talk to, where you can share these types of problems, employee problems, business problems, ethical problems, in a safe environment. Those people can come in with a different perspective and help you make the right decision. As an executive, it's important to show your competence at solving problems on your own, but there's nothing wrong with asking for help from time to time from your peers. So speak with your peers and colleagues from other companies if you can do so without divulging company secrets. Even if you're not at the top of the chain, if you're a line worker, you can talk to other folks as long as you're not divulging company secrets or saying things that are not allowed to be said. In our case in healthcare, we don't want to violate HIPAA or other standards, but you can share the generalities of your story and get that input, as long, again, as it doesn't violate trust within your own organization. And research. Look for similar issues that have happened to other people. See if it applies to you. See if there's something that you can learn from that. Read books, read magazine articles, find out what's happening today in the world. A little cartoon, a couple of guys here. I don't know, Fred. Yes, there is a loophole in our business, and it's certainly legal, but something just doesn't look right about it. Make sure before you leap, you're not putting your head in a noose. Oftentimes you'll hear it said, I'm giving him enough rope to hang himself. Don't get caught in that. Make sure that when you're making decisions, when you're doing things, it's the right thing, that it's in line with the company policies. If you don't understand the company policy, seek clarification. If you're the owner of a business and you haven't created a mission statement or a value statement, you don't think that people understand exactly what it is you're looking for, that needs to be written down. It needs to be communicated. There should be no question in anyone's mind in an organization what the company's values are, how you're going to treat folks, how you're going to treat your patients. Are you going to provide a K3 device when it's really a K2 patient because it's close? Maybe the patient really won't even benefit from the advanced technology. Do what's right for your patients. Set your goals, set your standards. These are the things that people see, and this is what sets the value chain that goes through your company. So make sure that what you're doing is something that you would be proud of and that you'd want your people to emulate. We have social responsibility as well. Because of your position, you have a unique opportunity to interact with patients. People are coming to you in a time of need. They've had a catastrophic injury, they've had disease progression, they've had any number of things, a birth defect. They need your support, they need the care and the attention that you can provide. And it's not about making a quick buck. We have to make money to stay in business, but we also have to remember why we're in business to begin with. Almost everybody in this field got in this field because they care. And we get caught up day to day in all the regulations that we have to deal with, federal requirements, paper pushing, and it gets to the point sometimes where we can feel like a patient walking in our office actually disrupts our work. And so we forget why we're here. You're in a position to have access to a lot of very sensitive information from those patients. So keep that under wraps. Remember again why we're here. It's to help the patient. And as part of our social responsibility, we have a really big opportunity here to influence the way this profession, the profession of mastectomy provision, footwear, O&P, all of these things are kind of a stepchild to the rest of healthcare, when in reality the services that you guys are providing are tremendous. They save the system money that the system doesn't know it saves. We get people back to a quality of life that they haven't had ever in some cases, or that they thought they would never see again because of a traumatic injury. So part of our ethical duty is to make sure that the folks above us in the food chain, the payers and the referral sources and other care providers, know that you're actually not a vendor of pieces and parts, but a provider of care and services for your patients. And the way we do that is dealing with these people in the food chain in a responsible way, in a truthful way. We tell them what we can do and what we can't do. We create care plans with the patient in mind. The patient's part of that process, so they understand truly what it is we're going to do. We're going to set goals that are realistic, that you can achieve through your interventions, which have both physical through devices and emotional through your support, and physical therapy and drug interventions and pain therapy, dietary changes. All of these things affect the patient in a holistic view, and you play a key role in managing the population of patients you deal with. So we have to be able to demonstrate integrity to the other healthcare providers. We want to demonstrate integrity with our payers. We want to demonstrate integrity with our patients. Don't overpromise. Don't let them assume things that you know they're assuming even though they're not going to happen. We want to give them truth. We want to give them the ability to get better on their own, with your help, not on their own, with your help. Be there as a support for them. It's so important today more than ever. As Medicaid in the state changes, as payers throughout the nation change the way they reimburse for services, there's every pressure on you to make up for losses. There's tremendous push to reduce reimbursements. The state Medicaid agency is looking at cutting funding drastically. It's going to mean pain, real pain to patients. It's going to mean providers are going to fall out of the system. There's going to be tremendous pressure on care providers to cut corners, to do whatever they can to make up for the dollars that are going to be lost. Resist the temptation. Document what you do. Show that you matter. Show that the care you're providing makes a difference in your patients. Persevere through the pain that's going to come. It's going to come. Read the headlines. Alabama Medicaid is in trouble, and fees are going to get cut. So don't take the easy road. Don't lose your ethics in this coming time of trouble. Maintain your integrity. Help your patients as best you can. Where you can't help them, tell them. Get your legislators involved. There are going to be issues that are going to come up where you're not going to be able to provide help that your patient deserves. And you're going to have that patient advocate for themselves through the legislature, through whatever means are available to make things happen. But don't take it on yourself and don't cut corners to get around this mess that's about to come. You can't be a leader if you don't have followers. And to have followers, you have to have their confidence. To have confidence, you have to have integrity. That comes from President Dwight Eisenhower. We have to demonstrate integrity now. We have to become leaders in this healthcare morass in which we're about to find ourselves. This completes the video for Business Ethics and Social Responsibility for the Alabama Practitioner Part 1. Please submit your quiz for credit. And thank you for your time.